Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura. And when it's nice weather outside, sometimes we don't want to be inside sewing. So let's make a quilt outside. Let's do a little prep work first, get some ironing done, and then we can put the iron away, just bring out our sewing machine, a few little tools, and make a quilt. So the project that I'm going to be able to work on outside, I'm going to be using a foundation paper and some pre-cut fabrics. Now you can get this foundation paper in many different sizes. This little block of papers has all the foundations already print for us. We just need to take them out and sew them. No pre-printing, nothing. We can just go. And there are 42 sheets per pad of paper. Now this particular block does make a finished 12-inch block. All of the directions are printed right on that back page. And it does tell us to start with a 13.5-inch square. This is a little bit too big for what I want to do, but you can get them in multiple sizes. So here is another one that makes the same block, and it's going to make a 6-inch finished square. And for this one, we're going to start with a 7.5-inch square. But I do want to work with pre-cuts, so I'm going to use this finished 4-inch block. All of my 42 pages are there, and I'm going to be able to start with a 5-inch fabric. And I'm going to use this very pretty fabric. And this fabric I did get from my Annie's kit, which I get these charms sent to me monthly. And this particular one is called the Shores, and those colors are going to look beautiful against these backgrounds. Because I am using those pre-cuts, I will be making this little wall hanging that's going to take 36 of these pre-cuts. When we look at the pattern, we're going to notice that we do have some side pieces and some corner pieces. So if we buy more of these packages, we can make this as big as we want. But for this 36-inch square, I'm going to need 4 corner pieces, and I'm going to need 16 of those sides and 16 center pieces. So when we look at the front here, these are the center pieces. I will need 16 of those. These are the corner blocks. I'm going to need 4 corners and 16 sides. And I'm going to take and mark my first 4 ones, and I'm just going to put a C right there in the center. So those are going to be my corner pieces. I now am going to take 16 and put an S on it, and those are going to be my sides. And I will need to take 16 out to make the center of the blocks. So I'm going to take those 4 corners out of that pack and match them up with 4 of my charm pieces and just put them together. I'm going to take off that 16 sides and match up 16 of my charm packs to go with this. Now I'm going to be able to pick out 16 of the center pieces. I'm going to need 4 corners, which means I will need 4 of those little corner pieces, 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. I'm going to need the 2 corners. I have 16, so I have 2 piles of 16. And for the body of the quilt, I'm going to need 16 blocks, so 4 corners of 16. And I'm going to put these in individual bags, and that way I can work on one section at a time. Once we have everything prepared, we're going to be able to take this outside. And these are very simple to put together. We're going to take those 5-inch squares of fabric and place them right side down. This paper is going to be put over top, so we're going to add just a little bit of glue to hold it on. And that does replace those pins. So that's number 1 already done. We're going to be able to sew those 4 corners on in the same way. We're going to start with number 2, and you can just use any little piece of cardboard, place it along that line, and fold that paper back along that line. We need to trim off a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can get an add a quarter ruler, which will be able to do that, or you can use a regular ruler and just measure over a 1/4 inch. So when you fold that back, we do have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're going to take those little rectangles of fabric, line them up to that cut edge, flip it over, and stitch right along that line. So that fold line is also the stitching line. So that piece is stitched right through the paper. We're going to be able to fold it back, put a little dollop of glue there, and finger press. So there's no iron required. For the 4 corners, we will only need to add that 1 corner on. For the sides, we're going to need to add 2. So we're going to do the same thing. Fold that over, trim that off, put that fabric right side together, and stitch. Flip that little corner over with a little piece of glue and finger press. That will be all we need for those side pieces. Let's add on those 2 other corners, and that will be for the rest of the pieces. And that's all there is to stitching this block. And this is why it's great to bring this outside. We do not need to do any ironing. We're just going to stitch, flip, and sew. From there, we will trim those blocks down, and we're going to trim on that outside line. So it won't matter if we've done the 1 corner, 2 corners, or the 4 corners, we will trim the same way. And that is a complete block. Once I have all of my supplies cut and ready to go, I'm going to be able to bring this project outside. I don't need an iron, I don't need scissors, I don't even need pins. So it's going to be an easy thing for me to bring outside. As I finish a section, I'm going to put it back in its bag. And I do have everything in a tray, so I could just pick it up and bring it right back into the broom. I find this is a nice system because I don't have to worry about pins, irons, and scissors. I have all of my blocks trimmed, and I'm going to be able to start putting them together. They do give us a layout sheet, and I am making this little layout here. I'm going to sew them together in 4s. So I'm going to be able to just flip those over. Now these are bias seams, so I would definitely recommend to leave that paper on while we're stitching. And it does give us that stitching line. If a few of those threads come apart as you take that paper off, it's fine. It is anchored in that last row of stitching. Of course, you can sew these together any way that you'd like. And as I go along, I will be removing the paper right from that seam allowance. Once I have these all sewn together, this is going to equal a finished 24.5-inch square. I have most of my paper still on, and that has kept it stabilized. I just removed a little bit here along the seams. Now before I remove any more paper, I do want to add a border, and that's going to stabilize the whole thing. I did put a 2.5-inch cut border on, so it's a finished 2-inch border. So I started with the side 24.5 inches, which made this 28.5 inches. You can really see how those little stars just sort of sparkle in the center. And once all that paper is removed, I gave it a last pressing, and it really is a pretty little quilt. As long as we have started with well-pressed fabric, we will not need to bring an iron outside with us. We're going to iron it when it's all done, so we can just finger press, use a little bit of glue, and that paper really does keep us straight, and it is a cute little quilt. I've been able to enjoy the birds, the fresh air, and no stress quilting. Thank you for joining Sew Very Easy outside today. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.